It is 3 minutes. We're going to get started. I'm going to kick it over to Pete Godella from the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity to get us started today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this New Americans Task Force webinar. We're excited for the content that's been prepared to share with you. Just a reminder, the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity Center for Global Talent works with the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging on issues related to new Americans in Utah, immigration, creating economic opportunities for all who are in Utah. And we're pleased to have that partnership and pleased to bring Talent Ready Utah to you today as part of this webinar. So if our office can ever, be of assistance to you or help in any way, feel free to reach out to myself, or you can reach us at business@utah.gov, and we're happy to help where we can. But with that introduction, Z, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Pete. And again, thank you for your partnership with the New American Task Force and your support and the Governor's Office support of New American talent in the community. We'll start today's webinar with community announcements. So if we could go to the next slide, please. The first and foremost is we are hosting a young professionals event on August 21st. For those of you who don't know about the Young Professionals, is a program that is sponsored by the Utah Division of Multicultural Affairs and the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging. It's a space where we young professionals are able to learn together and connect and be able to discover various ways that they can contribute back to the community, including serving in boards and commissions. If you're interested in this particular event, there is it looks like a link on our website, but also be able to Bailey, are they able to find it on our website? Okay, you're able to find this event on the website and to register. We're excited for this social hour on August 21st. Next slide, please. The Black Physicians of Utah is hosting a mental wellness back to school event. This is also a great event for people who are going to school on August 16th from 10 to 2:30 p.m. I can't believe it's already school time, so great to see that there are so many resources in the community helping students. Next slide. It is my pleasure to introduce a speaker for today. As I alluded to earlier, it is time for school to go back to school. I just seen that some of my friends' kids has already started today as the first day in school. The purpose of today's meeting is really to share resources through one of, I was telling Jimmy McDonald, who will be speaking with us, that one of the great kept secrets of Utah. Talent Ready Utah is within the Utah system of higher education, and they offer so many classes to make sure to support students to succeed and connect them to careers. Without further ado, I would like to turn the webinar over to Jimmy McDonald.
Thank you, Z. Thank you, everybody, and I'm really happy to be here. Vic Hockett, who is our Associate Commissioner of Talent Ready Utah, couldn't be with us in the beginning, so hopefully he'll join throughout. And so we might have him on the call, but he regrets not being able to be here in the beginning. I am actually the Assistant Commissioner for Higher Education Workforce Programs with the Utah System of Higher Education and Talent Ready Utah. Go to the next slide. So what we'd love to talk to today is career and educational opportunities for Utah workforce. And we're going to talk specifically about new Americans, but we are going to talk a lot about K-12 and our pathway programs that we support throughout the state. I'm going to go to the next slide. So just to kind of go through kind of my overview for what I hope to accomplish in the discussion that I hope to have today is a little bit about what is Talent Ready Utah, and then really talk about our career pathways, how our focus is really to align education with high demand jobs, and then how we we engage employer and industry in that process. Next slide. So taking a look at Talent Ready Utah, Talent Ready Utah actually was established in 2015. It was established in really the beginning of it, I should say, was 2014 when Boeing went to the state and they said they really needed workforce education programs, that they had a workforce need and they really wanted a plan on how do they develop that talent and really looking at it going from that high school period up. So initially in 2015, Talent Ready Utah was established. It was initially part of the Governor's Office of Economic Development then, where it stayed for probably about 5 years. And then in 2022, we were moved from GoEO to the Utah System of Higher Education. We love GoEO and we continue to work very closely with them. But where a lot of our work is in education, be it higher ed and public ed, it seemed like the Utah System of Higher Ed was a great fit for us. Our mission as a program is really to collaborate with industry, education, and community partners to really take a look at what are the workforce needs in the state and how are we supporting those needs. We really do a lot, and what we say our format is we convene all those partners together. We collect information and data as far as what are the needs, what are the issues, what are the programs that already exist, and then we kind of assess how can we help resolve them. If we're realizing there's a demand that we can't meet, we assess how could we meet that demand, and then we act. And so the way that we act is a couple different ways. There is a policy component. We work very closely with partners like Department of Workforce Services, GoEO, the legislature, in going and saying, hey, we need to add these additional programs. There's a huge demand for, let's say, engineers. What does that look like and what are the pathways to develop that? We also act by applying for grants and funding and standing up programs throughout the state to support growth. We act by working with our public education system and our institutions programs throughout our higher ed programs to really support and really meet that need. So we do a lot, but our big goal is convening all of those players to make sure that we're being responsive as a state to what those workforce demands are in the future. Next slide. One of the things that I want to talk to first is pathway programs. So one of the things that we really look at when we're talking about workforce development and pathways is we want to create an ecosystem that students have what we would say are, I kind of describe it as a career highway. Where students have opportunities to get on and off at various points. And so when we talk about our pathway programs, they're typically programs that we look at that start in high school, but there's connections all the way up through associate degree or technical colleges and our higher education institutions. And the goal is that a student would be able to graduate from high school and start a career. For some students, that might be all they want to do. For other students, they might want to go back and say, hey, I really want to get a technical certificate. And then they can come back and get that. Or they might say, I want to get an associate's degree, and they might do that. Or again, they might want to go get their master's or undergraduate, their PhD, but that we're creating those on and off ramps that a student can kind of assess what it is that they want to do, what matches their aptitude, and be able to have those opportunities. So on this screen, you can see that we support currently in the state 5 different career pathway programs. There's a 6th program here that I'll talk about in the next slides. We have a Utah Aerospace Pathways program. And so that program deals mainly with, again, aerospace and manufacturing, actually. And so we're in the process of actually revamping that program. And it's going to have a new name, which is going to be UAMP, Utah Aerospace Manufacturing Pathways. But it really is supporting those industries and all those different pathways. We have a diesel tech program, which again is really dealing with, heavy equipment, CDL, all those diesel tech, diesel driving programs. We have a UAEC program. And so that program is dealing with construction, engineering, and architecture is what those programs are focused on. We have a tech sales program, which is really looking at sales, technology, and kind of combining those two of that, of how they combine in sales and using technologies for sales. And then the last program that we really deal with is the Utah Rotor Pathway program. And so that is looking at aviation. And so that's looking at the maintenance as well as flight. We have several programs that are kind of in the works. So these are the ones that have been stood up and that we currently have active. We have other ones that we're currently working on. You can see though on the chart that I have, we list the different school districts that our programs are in. And so for our programs, they're open to any school district throughout the state. And so typically what we're looking at is either through their CTE programs that they're offering programs to support these pathways, or they're offering concurrent enrollment programs or dual enrollment programs with their local higher ed institution. But again, the goal to this is that students are starting in that high school time period, they're starting to take courses. And then as they're going, they're kind of either taking that pathway into college, or like I said, when they graduate from high school, they should have a certificate or some level of proficiency that they should be able to start their career. What we know in higher ed is that a good majority of our students are working while they're going to school. And so one of the things is we really embrace the earn and learn model. And so wanting to give participants and students the ability that they have the skills and the credentials to be able to do that, but then to get jobs that are sustainable. We want to make sure that students are in jobs that are at that 15 plus, hopefully $20 to $25 an hour, that they can sustain themselves in a good job. The sixth program that is on here, we can go to the next slide, is our TRACK program. TRACK stands for our Talent Ready Apprenticeship Connection program. And so what we're talking about here is specifically apprenticeship programs. So this program will also start in high school, but with most apprenticeship programs, they go 2 to 3 years. Where we really see a lot of our TRACK programs, and so TRACK is the acronym that we use for this, is mainly in manufacturing. And so what happens is, again, students start in high school, they're taking those CTE or concurrent enrollment courses while they're actually working. And so for there to be an actual apprenticeship, the student has to be employed by an employer. So great partnership that we have, and one of the great examples that I'll use for this is Stadler Rail. So students will be at school, and then they'll be at Stadler Rail and they'll be working. It provides an opportunity that students can actually apply what they're doing in class, or what they're learning with what they're doing at work, and making that connection. Once students graduate in high school, in this program, they're enrolled in Salt Lake Community College. And so again, they will continue this coursework at Salt Lake Community College while they're working. And at the end of the program, they continue to work this job. There's pay increases that are incremental into this time period, but then they also should be able to graduate with an associate's degree, an applied associates of science degree as well. And so that's kind of the goal, that they're doing both at the same time, that they're learning and they're applying at the same time. And so we're going back to that earn while you learn model. And again, it's streamlining that post-secondary credentials, and it's allowing them to have those opportunities for upskilling. After that student gets their associate's degree and they finish that apprenticeship program, they can then go and they can transfer and do their bachelor's degree at one of our regional or one of our R1 institutions, and they can continue their education if that's what they want to do. And so again, it's a lot of it is supporting the student during this process and this program. Those students get exposed to various different elements. So they're doing engineering, they're doing electrical. That way they can get a feel for what it is that they like, what it is that they have an aptitude in, and then they can kind of dig a little bit deeper into their coursework. You can go to the next slide. This screen here kind of shows how we align our skills and competencies. And so you can kind of see you have the industry lanes at the bottom there: manufacturing, engineering, nursing, finance, and biology. And so like we kind of talked about this career highway that we have these on and off ramps. Our goal is that students will start this while they're in high school. And so while they're in that high school process, they can kind of get a feel that I really like this, that I'm really good at this. And then as they're kind of taking those courses at either their CTE program, or it might be concurrent enrollment programs that are offered at their high school through through the higher ed institution, they can start to identify what are those credentials that would help them to be able to achieve their goals. And then we structure that with on-the-job training and learning. That way it makes it applicable to students. A lot of students have great goals, but they also want to be able to do something and apply it while they're doing it. And so these types of programs like Track allow students that opportunity that they can do that book work and they're getting that academic piece to it, but they're also getting that applied piece where they're actually doing it. And so for a lot of students, that's extremely beneficial. And again, it's giving them the opportunity that they can earn while they're learning. If we can go to the next slide. So this next slide kind of is a little bit different, but it's kind of just also, we go back one, sorry. Other way. There we go. Oh, there we go. So with this slide, what we're kind of seeing is, again, looking at those on-ramps and off-ramps. And so, we've had a lot of conversations about different jobs, but as they're in these jobs and they see other people and they're seeing what people do, it provides that opportunity for them to say, hey, I really like what that person is doing over there. How can I be a quality control specialist? What do I need to do to be able to do that job? And then to be able to realize, hey, like if you go back and you get the certificate. And so we're really looking for those opportunities that we give students that opportunity or chance to kind of go back and kind of stack that. And then the goal is that with each of those opportunities, it leads to greater career opportunities. It's leading to more economic stability and higher earning potential. And so that is the goal from all of these programs that are in the pathways, that we're really providing students those opportunities and showing them that there's various different options. When we talk about pathway programs and we take a look at the aerospace and manufacturing, it's a whole ecosystem of jobs. It's not just manufacturing. It is HR. It is leadership. It is design. And so being able to expose them into those pathway programs to show them there's a whole wealth of job opportunities. You might love being an accountant, but you don't know where you want to be an accountant at. And so being able to provide these opportunities to students where they can kind of understand this is what fits for me, or that they can combine their passion with their aptitude. And so that's really what our goal is when we start talking about our pathway programs and our track program. Go to the next slide. So when we talk about what those opportunities are, so as we talked about, we have the pathways available. And so these programs start in high school. And so I would encourage all of you that are on the call that might have students that are in schools, or again, that you're supporting people that have students that are in these schools, encourage them to ask their school, their high schools, about these programs. Ask them and encourage them to talk to their CTE coordinators to find how they can get connected to these programs. And so please, this presentation will be shared and it's going to be recorded and on the website, or you can reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to share that list with you. But talk to your district, or if you are in a district that does not offer these programs, reach out to them and ask, do they offer something different, or how can they get involved? But again, to take advantage of these pathway programs. I would also say with those pathway programs, while my department specifically handles pathways, our access department deals with concurrent enrollment programs. That's equally as important. Most of our high schools offer programs where students can finish high school with an associate's degree. It really requires great planning though. And so as much as we can give parents and students that information and support them in making good decisions, it sets them up for future success and greater earning potential. And so that's really one big piece that I would talk to in the K-12 piece. When we talk about support programs, and I'm going to talk about Utah Works here shortly. Support programs are programs that we fund through our institutions or through employers. Utah Works is a program that we offer where we have employers that will come to us and they'll say, hey, we have a skilled labor need, but we're having a hard time finding people. what we'll do is we'll pair that employer up with one of our institutions of higher education. They will partner up to develop a program and curriculum that we'll provide a grant for to train workers for that skilled labor need. And so again, this could be throughout the entire state, and we pay the cost to develop the program. We would basically pay if there's any equipment needs or supply needs, but we'll also pay the tuition. The key to it is it has to be a short-term program, and it has to be a program that results in employment. And so if there's any employers on the call or anybody that knows employers that has a skilled labor need, I would encourage them to reach out to us to see how we might be able to support that. But I would also say if there's anyone out there that is looking for training, we have programs at a lot of our institutions that you could sign up for to meet these needs. And so Salt Lake Community College, Bridgerland, a lot of our technical and our community colleges have programs where they're working with employers to support their needs and to provide that training. So that is one program that I would love to call out and let people know it's a program to be taken advantage of. We also have return to work programs. And so our return to work programs are programs that we take a look at people that are currently not engaged in the workforce. And so those programs, if we can go back still. So for those return to work programs, those would be programs that would either support possibly parents that have taken a break to raise a family. We're seeing an increase in people that are having to take breaks to take care of elderly parents possibly. We're seeing people that are new to the country that haven't been able to get a job because of credentials or other issues. We're also seeing those that might have a disability that have not been able to obtain a job. So through this return to work program, we offer funding to employers to develop programs to support those populations in finding and retaining a job. One program that we support is through 47G. 47G has come to us with the idea and a plan of supporting new Americans that are looking for jobs in manufacturing and in aerospace. And so they're providing training on ELL, on support needs, and then they have that partnership then with employers to be able to make that match for jobs. And so again, there's several different return to work programs, but again, I would encourage you to seek those programs out because it could be a great opportunity. Also in our program, we have industry-specific initiatives. And so again, especially when we take a look at our higher ed programs, we have deep tech programs, healthcare programs, engineering programs. And so we're always looking to see what are those industry needs and how we can make those connections with Utahns and make sure that we're providing the training that's needed to support that growth areas. Some other connections that I'd like to talk about, specifically to new Americans, is all of our institutions of higher ed have some level of ESL programming, that they're providing some language support resources. And so regardless of where you're at in the state, we have 16 institutions throughout the state, and they should be a great resource for that level of support. Also, all of our institutions do credit for prior learning. We're trying to get a lot better in organizing that, but every institution does have that support. So for those that might have work experience, or again, that maybe are coming from another country where they had a professional license or certificate, there is a possibility that they can give credit for that experience. And so I would encourage everyone to make sure that they at least pursue that and have that conversation and to be able to get that recognition if possible. And then community partnerships. One of the things that's rich for us, I know as we go through some rough times as a country, all of our campuses at our degree granting institutions have a host of international students. As much as we can connect them to the community, and we can make those connections for the community with our students, the better. And so please, we have schedules, we have activities, we have events. And so I would encourage you to reach out to your institutions to find out more about those opportunities. Next slide. So Utah Works, I talked about a little bit. And so this slide here is just really going into what it is. And so not going to go too much into it, but again, I would just encourage you, again, if you're an employer that has a skilled labor need, definitely reach out to us. Or again, if you're an adult or you're serving an adult or supporting an adult that is possibly interested in looking for free training, these programs exist. And so if you go to our Talent Ready website, you can go to our Utah Work site, and it'll show you the programs that are currently existing, and it'll provide that contact information that you can reach out to those institutions. But again, great a program, especially for adults that are looking to upskill or reskill into new jobs. Next screen. One of our things, as I talked about earlier, is we are a convener, and we work a lot with industry. One of our jobs is really, to partner with industry and employers to find out what their needs are and how we can support that. But the other part is, as we do that more and more, what we hear from employers are they want employees that have experience. And so one of our big thing is we call that work-based learning. And so we really are constantly trying to partner up with employers to create those opportunities. But then as we're dealing with our public education, K-12 institutions, and our higher ed, is to provide those opportunities for students, to be able to give them those experiences that will give them the opportunity to practice, to be mentored, and to network. Typically, and I know probably even when I did it, I talked a lot about K-12, but again, work-based learning is just not for kids. Work-based learning is for our college students, but it's also for adults that might be wondering, do I want to do this career change? Do I want to pursue, do I really like nursing? And so this is not something that's just, reserved for kids. This is for anybody that wants to have that opportunity or that experience. And so work-based learning and those opportunities are something that's available for adults as well. And we would encourage you all to take advantage of that. It's great for the learner, but it's also great for an employer because it gives them early access to talent. It gives them the opportunity to be able to show, like, this is how we do it at our workplace. Maybe you got taught differently how to do it, or in your country you learned this way, but this is how our company does it, and this is our process. And then it also gives them a pipeline. Maybe they might not have a job right now, but it starts to give them a pipeline for the future and allows them to kind of know what skill is out there, and also exposes the learner to what the culture is of that workplace. Next screen. So one of the things that I would encourage kind of as an action item from this is I would encourage everyone on this call to support work-based learning. Work-based learning is really, very generally defined as any of those experiences that connect an employer and a learner. It could be job shadowing, which is when we take a student and we just let them observe what happens in a workplace. It could be work-based learning or an internship where they're actually going and they're doing work. It could be an employer going out to either a school or in a college and doing a workshop or lecturing or doing a class. But supporting those opportunities both from an employer side and also from a student side. If you are a parent that's on this call, encourage your students to take advantage of those opportunities. We're hearing more and more from employers that they want students to have that skill and they want them to have that experience. We see from an education perspective, the more that students have these work-based learning experiences, they learn what they want to do or what they might have the aptitude to do, and that could be good or bad. It could be that they go to an experience and they realize, I really don't like this, but there's learning that's still involved in that. So it's really important to expose students as much as possible to those experiences. I would encourage everyone on this call also to explore high school career technical education programs. Every one of our high schools in the state offers some level of what we would call CTE programs. And so I would encourage you to know what those programs are. Typically about 7th and 8th grade is when we start exposing students to those. Make sure that your student's getting exposed to those. Again, it's a great skill builder, but it's a time for them to start learning what they might have the aptitude to do. Our third point here that I have is take advantage of concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment programs. Again, all of our high schools offer concurrent and dual enrollment programs. Typically, when we use the term concurrent enrollment, that's a program that's a partnership between the high school and one of our degree granting institutions. Dual enrollment is typically used for one of our technical colleges. This is a very cost-effective way for students to earn college credits or an associate's degree, or to be able to finish a technical education program. I would encourage all parents to make sure that they know about these programs and that they take advantage of them. I would say the key to those programs is knowing early. When a student's in ninth grade, it starts to get a little late, but you have to be able to plan for these. So ask questions and ask questions early, but please encourage people to take advantage of them. And then my final walk away that I would give is upskill and reskill through Utah Works programs. Those programs are meant to serve our communities, to be able to provide those opportunities where people can upskill or reskill into a new skilled labor. And so really ask those questions, do the research on our website, call your local technical college or your community college, and ask questions about what are those Utah Works programs that they have available. If you are an employer or you know an employer that's really having a hard time finding skilled labor, encourage them to contact us and see how we might be able to connect them with one of those institutions to be able to support them and develop a program. There's a lot of opportunity out there, and sometimes we don't get to know it because there's just so much, or we just get caught up. But I encourage you to make the phone calls, ask the questions, and make sure that we're taking advantage of these programs that are available for all of us. Next slide. So again, I thank you so much for the time. I know I was only able to scratch the surface of what it is that we do in the programs that we have, but I really hope that it was an opportunity to kind of just at least show you what is available, and to then kind of encourage you to, again, just if nothing else, ask questions. Definitely feel free to reach out to us. Our email address is here on this slide. Our website is here on this slide. We're always more than happy to support in any way that we possibly can. And so any way that we could help you, employers, any of our schools or our institutions, we are a resource. And whatever we can do to support, we are more than happy to do. So again, thank you so much. I don't know, Z or Bailey, if we have time for questions, but if we do, I take them. If not, again, definitely feel free to reach out to us.
Jimmy, thank you so much. That was so comprehensive, and really see how passionate you are about the programs and its impact that will have on students. We do have time for questions, and I know that we have a lot of some community partners here that are in the education space. I would also think that this is also might be a good idea too, in addition to asking Jimmy questions, maybe to even share from your perspective, since you're on the grounds, some of the challenges of clients, students that you serve in accessing those programs. So I really want this to be like a robust dialogue conversation, if that's okay. But if you have a question, please just unmute or raise your hand, and then I will unmute you. Susan, I think you could just talk, Susan.
Hello.
Hi, yes.
This is Dr. Suze. I'm a professor as well as a student at Westminster University of Utah, and also my favorite position ever was at the Refugee and Education campus of Salt Lake Community College, which was a lifesaver for anybody that was new to the US at any level or been here for a while. And it's absolutely broken my heart that the Meadowbrook campus of Salt Lake Community College and the Refugee Education and Training Center, which was just a lifeline to so many families, has been closed down. And it was the perfect situation to solve the problems that we have. And the reason why it closed down was because of the first travel ban and then the Muslim ban and all of the repercussions of going from our newcomer community dropping, from 2,500 a year to 250, and then not being able to get the funds. But this just left a big, gigantic hole in trying to bring us all together to help this community. And I just would love to see more action about creating another space like that. As you're saying, we have all these we have all the satellites of everybody, a little piece of helping, but having that central location made such a difference in the lives of so many people, and 200 different career option choices in different classes that they could take. Has there been any more talk about reopening that type of campus setting for newcomers? And what is the chances of something like that ever happening again?
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is, right now the tone, of the current administration kind of has impacted a lot of funding that's available. As I think as a state, and we're going through, very tight budgets, everything is trying to be streamlined as much as possible. I think, as a state that has huge opportunity for economic growth, yet low unemployment, there's a realization from the state legislature of we cannot let anybody not be involved or supported in being able to take advantage of opportunity and to be able to join the workforce. So I think we know that there's a need that we need to support, and we have to have those programs. It's finding the way that we can do it most cost effectively. And that we can make it available to everybody, because we can't afford not to include everybody. So I don't know, and I can't say with certainty that there's no conversations about opening it. I think it's something that probably will be more viable in the future than currently, just because of budget restrictions, and just trying to stretch so much to support so many. But I think the goal is that we still know there is a population out there that has to be supported. We need them in our talent pipeline, that they're part of what makes Utah great, and that we need to tap into those skills. It's really, I think, our goal at this point is making sure that we're connecting and providing the support and the resources of knowing where to go and where those services are at.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, Susan, for that question. I was pretty involved with the Refugee Education Center on my previous role, and understand the impact that it has made. But I know that things shifts, and we just have to be innovative and thinking about ways to connect some of the dots that we haven't been able to do it. And I know all of us are trying to find those opportunities to do better. So thank you so much for that question. Anyone else has any questions for Jimmy? And Jenny, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. All right, so my question is regarding supports for English learners. I think one thing that has been sort of a normal practice has been that there's an expectation that people get up to a certain English level before they're able to go into other classes. I'm wondering, are there discussions, or what kinds of discussions have happened around the idea of embedding English learning in some of these programs so that it's content-based, it's comprehensible because they're learning it while they're learning content, rather than taking English classes and then going into some of these programs?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we have several models throughout the state and throughout our institutions. I know Z and I were talking before this call about a program that they're discussing where it is embedded specifically into healthcare in that terminology. And so we have several different programs at different institutions that are doing it exactly that way, that it's really applied to what it is that what they need and what they know. What we find a lot of times, as you know, I'm sure, is that a lot of students or that we're seeing that require ELL, they know English. It's about comfort and being comfortable with it and providing that opportunity. But I agree 100%. A lot of our programs that we're seeing, a lot of institutions, especially those that are tied to industry, where there is that partnership with industry, it is really focused on being embedded into the curriculum. That way they're progressing at that time, and that it's applied to what they need to know. And so I agree with you 100%. I think we've seen the effectiveness of it. We see it when we're talking about for employment purposes and being able to see that turnaround and application. It makes a lot of sense. And again, we also understand that if someone's trying to go through that ELL program, they're doing it because they want an opportunity, or they want to be able to accomplish something. And so we don't want them having to spend a year in a class just to get to that general level to be able to go to the next class. So as quickly as we can help and make it applicable, we will. So to go back, a lot of our programs throughout the state, especially those that are industry aligned, that is the model that they're using, is that they are doing it embedded and applied to that industry or employment opportunity.
Thank you, Jimmy. If I could, I may add to the conversation. I think that, as you alluded to earlier, Jimmy, that you guys are really a good convener with industry, really understanding the needs of industry. And I think that we have a lot of some participants, including Jenny, who asked the question, who work with communities. And there's definitely more opportunities to bridge the needs of industry with the talent that is in the community. And we oftentimes see it as that disconnect, right? Where industry is trying to look for employees or workers or talent, but they don't know what is existed in the community, and vice versa. The community oftentimes don't know what the industry is looking for. And I think that as the more ways that we can create those connections, identify those connections, as well as being able to work closely with industry to pilot those industry-specific programs, I think the better it is, and see that there's a lot of opportunity. You mentioned G47 as an example in the manufacturing company. So I encourage all of us to think outside the box a little bit. Think about what is possible, and if you have a great idea that really connects and meets the mission that all of us are trying to accomplish, getting people a good job as well as making sure that we're meeting the demands of our work of our businesses and employers.
I mean, and not to I don't want to do a shout out to a specific employer, because I know several do this, but I mean, bioMérieux is a great example where they had a huge manufacturing need. And they couldn't fill that need. And so what they ended up doing was, they understood they had a large population of Spanish speakers. And so they looked at, okay, how could we hire maybe a supervisor that could provide that support, and then, be able to have a shift that was supporting that. And so I think there's a lot of innovative ways, and then while they're doing that, to be able to provide those ELL opportunities, again, to be able to provide that support, but then to provide that opportunity. So going back to what you said, I think there's a lot of great opportunity in different ways. And that's one of our goals, is to be able to hear what those challenges are, to be able to connect those pieces of the puzzle, and then to be able to highlight where we have some successful models that maybe other employers can incorporate.
Thank you. Susan, I see that you have your hands up again, or is that from the last time?
It's from this time. I have two more questions. One about Utah and that the legislative's mandate to really make this connection between academic world and workforce connection, and I would and workforce entry. Is there an organized effort to bring all of the schools together, or is each one of the colleges and universities responsible to come up with their own plan of how they're going to make this workforce? Because I'm not seeing anything, and I'm in the middle of a lot of these schools, and so I'm just wondering how that is working. And the other question is, which is on the top of any national discussion that we're talking about, is AI and the workforce changing dramatically within 3 years. Are we preparing for that in Utah?
Yeah.
As we're educating the workforce?
Both great questions. So for the workforce, we are constantly having that conversation, both at the public education level and as well as the system level. Primarily a lot of the conversation and support that we provide out of our office are for the 16 public institutions. However, we do have regular conversations and dialogue and collaborations with BYU, Westminster's, WGU, to share resources and kind of collect that data. We are constantly taking a look and having that dialogue, with our industry advisory boards at each of those institutions, through grant initiatives, through legislative discussions of, what are those future workforce needs? What are the programs that we're offering? How are we updating those programs? So those conversations are constantly evolving and occurring, especially as we have new companies that are coming or are interested in coming into this state. What would their needs be? What would their workforce demands be? And having that conversation. Again, I can primarily speak, for the 16 USHE institutions, but I do know that we do regularly have conversations with those private institutions and opportunities that we do collaborate with them. Going over to the AI piece, AI is huge. It's been huge for a while. It'll continue to be huge. We anticipate that it probably will be one of the governor's budget priorities for this year, legislatively. There's a lot of different pieces to that. I know Talent Ready Utah just recently hosted Open AI Academy, that we plan to do throughout the state, where we're offering free AI trainings throughout the state for various different levels of users. There's a lot of different ways that we're seeing this. It's one, making sure that as kids are going through, kindergarten up, that they're having it infused and they know how to use the system. For those that are at that entry level, that they have the skills to be able to go into the current needs and be able to know how to leverage it. But then also for those incumbent workers, those that might be in their, late 40s and 60s, to also make sure that they have the skill set to still be competent, not competent, but to be competitive in the workforce and have that skill set. So there's multi-layers. But then also, we also realize that there's a responsibility and a duty to our educators. While we want to make sure all of those levels have the access to resources and training, we need to make sure that our professors, our teachers in our schools, that they have the tools to be able to leverage it into their classrooms and curriculum. And so we're really examining how we can provide support and resources to make sure all that happens, that we're looking at those different credentials that are existing for teachers, when we're looking at CEUs, and all those different layers of requirement. We believe, AI is an amazing, I hate to say tool, because it's much more than a tool, but it is something that we have to make sure that everyone is comfortable with, and understanding also that they're using it every day. And so there's also that piece of safeguarding all of our students and all of our constituents, that, being conscious of the information that they're putting out there. And a lot of times people don't realize it's an AI tool, and that understanding that it is. And so it is most definitely a priority. It pretty much at this point is integrated in everything that we're looking at when we're looking at different programs. One of the things and the factors that we're looking at, even for new degree programs, is how are we infusing AI into this curriculum or into this experience. And so it is a constant daily conversation here at the USHE office. It is most definitely a priority of the governor. And we hear constantly from industry and from employers that this is a skill set that everyone has to have in the future.
Those are great questions. In fact, Jimmy and I were just in a roundtable together talking about AI, and that how important it is to stay ahead in the curriculums that we need to create to prepare people. So thank you so much for that question. Any other questions that anyone might have, please go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, you cover quite a bit of materials, Jimmy. That is amazing. And you were so comprehensive in sharing the resources available. I do really encourage that to look into the resources more, those pathways programs for the students, the apprenticeships. We know how important those are. That the more that the students are able to, and for those who are working in the communities, I think it's really important that you begin to share those informations and encourage making sure that the parents understand, right? I think that the education system is shifting. New programs are coming through, and oftentimes, if you are a newcomer in a country, there's so many things that you have to juggle. And so, if there's any way that we can help support in getting the information out to the community, Jimmy, I'm trying to think through, like, is there ways that we can help promote the various new programs that you have through Talent Ready Utah? Are there people that you're already working with in terms of getting the word out?
No, I mean, yeah, we would definitely love the support and to share it. Again, the more, again, the goal of the programs are to get more students involved. And so, yeah, we can definitely make sure that we're sharing that for you to be able to get out to your list and to all the people that everyone is supporting.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too, that because of the partners that we have on the call today, many of them are providing additional support to support families who might have additional barriers in accessing those programs. For example, getting an internship or externship, or getting just some of those documents signed by parents, right? That many of those students need additional support. So I think that for a lot of the service providers here, if there's ways that we can partner with those institutions to reduce those barriers so that all students who want to access those programs could access programs, I think is important. And as system thinkers here, I think that we need to look at what are those additional gaps and barriers, and how do we work together collectively to reduce the barriers to access, because this is important. So just want to plug that in there, and we'll be happy to facilitate conversations if you have ideas of ways that we can get the word out and make sure that we reduce barrier for our students. We're here, and that's why the task force exists, so that we can look for solutions to some of the barriers that we have. And just finally, I mean, I also want to plug in that Talent Ready Utah. And Jimmy, thank you for sharing that. It's not just for students. We're also looking for just residents, adults to upscale and be able to earn a higher living earning, or be in a profession that they love to do. So I encourage all of us to also think about the adults and parents that we work with. With that, if there's no other questions, maybe if we could go to the next slide. Just want to make sure. I want to thank everyone for coming to today's New American Task Force. We're excited in putting together next month's webinar, to be determined, but we have something really exciting that we're planning for next month, and hope that all of you could join us. As always, the New American Task Force is a partnership with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity and the Center for Economic Opportunity and Belonging. If you have any questions, you're able to reach Pete Cordella at the governor's office at goeo@business.utah.gov, or you can contact me at the belonginutah.org. Again, I wish everyone a great night, and thank you so much for coming to today's webinar.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. Very, very helpful.